Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Since the issue of groups being targeted by the IRS has come to light, I've continually encouraged everyone I speak to let the facts lead us to wherever they may. We don't want to draw premature conclusions. Follow the facts. The more facts we learn, including in this hearing, the more concerned I get that there is some organized effort to stifle conservative political activity. Given the pattern of intimidation and obstruction we've seen from the IRS, I at least understand why some are ready to jump to firm conclusions. But perhaps what's most frustrating to me is we still need so many answers that we're not getting from some of the higher-ups and from others that represent us in our federal government. While we wait for those answers, far too many members of Congress and polemicists masquerading as journalists subtly downplay the gravity of this situation. We hear that time and again. And then they draw conclusions of their own. These are conclusions, incidentally, that don't seem to jive with the facts that we already know. We've heard, for instance, that the real problem is groups applying for tax-exempt status that engage in political activity. Problem is the groups. But groups of every political persuasion do this. They apply for this tax-exempt status. So why is it that every Tea Party group that applied for 501c4 status was targeted? Why did approval subsequently take years longer than many of their progressive counterparts? I want to know. The people want to know. Why were pro-life groups and groups in support of traditional marriage targeted but not pro-abortion, and marriage equality groups treated similarly? It's been more than suggested here in this hearing, that this is really about Citizens United and about 501c4 groups and their undisclosed donor lists. Well, I think some of my colleagues have helped disabuse us of that notion, but I want to know, why were groups filing for 501c3 status, like some of those here today asked inappropriate questions, like the content of their prayers? Why were 501c3 applicants left in limbo if this is about the abuse of 501c4 status? Lastly, we've heard that this is about organizations trying to game the system. But if it's about organizations, why was the IRS so concerned about individual donors to these organizations? Why in the months prior to a major federal election did donor information for conservative groups and candidates get illegally released by the IRS? We want to know the answer to that question. Why did donors to conservative candidates get targeted with threatening communications, trying to suppress their political donations? All of this is extremely troubling, and of course, we need more answers. Sadly, those who could tell us the most would rather plead the Fifth Amendment than help us get to the bottom of these things. This must never, ever happen again. We need to ensure that safeguards are in place, as others on both sides of the aisle have said, so that our executive branch cannot nurture or give license to a culture or a subculture of intimidation within our federal agencies. And finally, we need to punish those who violated our trust. You know, I'm looking forward to that day when we do prosecute, Dr. Eastman, those who are responsible for acts that may well need to be prosecuted as more facts come in. You indicate that you already have those facts on hand. Let's hope that those facts are presented before a court of law and that proper action is taken. We have an Indiana Tea Party group that waited for a number of years for their 501c4 application to be approved. They decided not to answer the IRS's inappropriate questions. They finally received a denial of their 501c4 status. However, just a few days later, after being denied, they were approved. Curious behavior. I want to know if any of your groups had a similar situation where you were approved just days after being denied.
Go ahead.
No, I'm actually still waiting for status after 29 months.
Okay.
Still waiting after almost 3 years.
We were approved prior to 2008.
Okay.
I withdrew my application.
We were approved 1 week after the request for a letter was given to us, or once our attorney sent in her letter, I guess it was 1 week after that, that we actually were approved. So they didn't actually deny us, but they reacted very quickly once we had legal help pointing out their requests being illegal.
And
Garrettson?
no, it was 600 and something days, but we finally were approved. We were never
Okay.
denied.
Thank you. I yield back.
Thank you. Mr. Kelly.